Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Vitamin C's. We hope everybody had a good Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, we hope you had a good time with your family. Before we jump into it, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. Show us some love. We're going to be hitting it hard in 2022. Yeah, 2022. So you know where to find your daily, well, your consistent Celtics content, and we will be more consistent. I'm joined by my homeboy, Mr. Tim Shields. You can find him over at CLNS Media. I'm Adam Taylor. You can find me over at Oddschecker US. You can find me at CelticsBlog.com. You can find me at Heavy.com. You can find me doing lots of different things on lots of different places. But that's enough about us. We're here to talk about the absolute dumpster fire that is the Boston Celtics. We've just been speaking a little bit off air. I want to kind of reiterate these points so we can just continue where we were before we hit this record button, Tim, because there's so much to say. And to be honest with you, I think everybody's going to have their own opinions. We're sure to ruffle some feathers, and hopefully there'll be some people that agree with us too. My first point, Jaylen Brown is not a first option on a team. Jaylen Brown is a supplemental star. And there's nothing wrong with that. You get what I'm saying? So I completely believe that you can still be an all-star caliber player, but you're a supplementary star. So you're the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan. That's obviously the most logical kind of comparison that you can make. I don't think Jaylen Brown and Scottie Pippen, don't get it twisted. There's levels to this shit. But I do believe that ask what we saw against the Timberwolves was very indicative of the fact that Brown is not qualified to be the lead point of an offense. I get it. There was injuries, there was health and safety protocols, but at the end of the day, talking about pit players being in and out of the roster, every team in the league's dealing with this. And if you look over at who the Timberwolves didn't have, no Karl Anthony Towns, no Anthony Edwards, no D'Angelo Russell, no Naz Reid, who, in my opinion, is one of the best backup bigs in the league. No Patrick Beverley, no Jared Vanderbilt, who's a solid defensive wing. They were more short-handed than Boston, yet they come out and just absolutely destroy. I mean, Greg Monroe playing like prime Wilt Chamberlain was obviously some form of craziness, but you get what I'm saying. It was a little bit too much for the Celtics to handle, and I think that what we saw was Brown is not capable of being that first option.
And I think that's fair to an extent. Honestly, this team lacks playmaking. There's really no shooting outside of the Jays, and that's something that's kind of been a consistent thread throughout this season. There's really nobody else on this roster that other teams have to respect. But again, you're going against a shorthanded team that's running out a bunch of guys like Greg Monroe. They signed Greg Monroe, and he literally came in and he packaged the Celtics up and sent them on their way. He ended up talking after the game, was like, yeah, I don't even know who this guy was, but he was huge for us tonight. Literally, I before this game, I had no idea who he was. You have guys coming off the street who no one knows about, and they're coming in and dropping 20, 30 points in your head. And it's embarrassing. And I don't want to say that this is all on Jaylen Brown or something, because that's not fair. I think this is on Ime Udoka. I think
for sure.
This is on roster construction, some of which is definitely, you still have to pin on Danny Ainge. It's going to take more than one season to fix this. But at the same time, when do you start to really look at this roster and say, who are we keeping? Who are we getting rid of? Are we waiting until the deadline to start selling off pieces? Are we trying to get pieces that are going to help us, down the line, that can also kind of help us a little bit now? But
so this is where
consider it.
This is where we were, right? So I'm not putting all the blame on Jaylen Brown's head. I'm just reiterating what we said to you. All I'm saying is that anybody that believes that Jaylen and Jason are 1A and 1B, it's not really that way. It's very clear. Tatum is number one. Brown is a number two option, and that is where he's best suited. He's always been best playing off of another player, off of another star. So now you're talking about whether or not what the Celtics need to do. So you have, in my opinion, you have 3 or 4 options. So option A is you double down on the core of Tatum and Brown, and you start, as we spoke about, you start looking around for a third star, a connector. It doesn't even, I don't personally believe it needs to be a star. It could be a high-level impact player, but they need to be a connector. Somebody that is a playmaker at heart, isn't going to care about a low usage rate in terms of shot attempts, but is going to have a high usage rate in terms of ball handling and facilitation. Anyone that followed this channel from its infancy knows that I was pushing for Ricky Rubio at the time. Lonzo Ball was another good option. That sort of player is who I view as a connector. So that is your option A. Option B, you sack off all of the young guys, you're like, right, we don't have time for player development. It's not what we want to do. We're not committed to developing Romeo Langford, Aaron Neesmith, Peyton Pritchard. It's just not what we want to do. So you start packaging these guys up and start seeing what you can get in return in terms of a high level veteran. You know what I'm saying? You want somebody like a Contavious Caldwell Pope coming in. You want Montrezl Harrell, that type of level of guy to replace the young players that you're sending out. And obviously, there'll need to be supplementary pieces added there. Option 3 is you go into it, you double down on your player development. You move on from Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroeder. You find a way to move on from Al Horford, or you do what Oklahoma did and say to Al, look, we need you here as a mentor, but you're not going to play anymore. And you double down on additional minutes for Romeo, Pritchard, Neesmith, and so forth. And you probably make some moves to see if you can get, like Kevin Porter Jr., what Houston did with him. If Boston, there'll be young guys out there not getting minutes that Boston could take swings on if they want to go down that road. And option 4 is you're like, right, the duo we have, the Brown and Tatum duo, isn't working. We need to trade away our secondary star for a secondary star that fits better with Jason Tatum. And that would obviously mean moving Jaylen Brown and seeing what the market's like for him. So do you see an option? Do you see an option 5? Do you think there's a 5th route that they can go down?
I think the 5th route that they have is literally staying exactly the same and then just throwing this year out the window. And I really don't think that is a good option. But look, all I'm saying is the Celtics really like Evan Fournier was a trade deadline move that they made. But for the most part, they don't make trades at the deadline. Now, to be fair, Brad Stevens is now at the helm, and he's made pretty clear in comments at the beginning of the season as well, seeing we're going to see what this group has. We're going to see what this group has. And if we don't have the right guys, he's not going to hesitate to make the deal. That's really what it waters down to. So they could be very aggressive. We've already heard talks about Dennis Schroeder being made available because the team knows that they're not going to be able to keep him. Nor do I think he's a good fit for the team right now. I thought he was pretty solid to start off, but the more the season has worn on, the more you saw his inefficiencies and that play style that kind of goes against everything that you need. You do need a playmaker. You need somebody who can take that pressure off of being a ball handler and facilitator off of the Jays. That's what they need right now. And Lonzo Ball is the one that really hurts because I really, really wanted them to try and make something happen there because he's killing it for the Bulls. The Bulls are really looking like a solid team. DeMar DeRozan, who I honestly was like, I don't think he's a star, is looking like a star right now again, which is great for him. He's having career renaissance year. The Celtics need that kind of move where they're adding another piece that not only raises their floor, but gives this team a chance to actually compete. And right now there's too much inexperience. And there's some nice pieces that they added. Josh Richardson's a really nice piece. And we were talking about it before. Right now he's behind Grant Williams. He's up there in attempts per game from beyond the arc, but he's shooting 40.5% from 3. And for a team that's lacking shooting, he's a really nice piece. If you can find a way to hold on to him, he's going to help this team long term. But the reality is you might have to sell off some of these pieces, and that might mean him as well.
Well, that was the whole reason you bring Josh Richardson in. You bring him in, you tag an extra year onto his contract so he's more attractive to other teams. You have that extra year of control, and then you bank on him building his trade value through the season. And then if you do need to package him as part of a deal, you've got additional value to when you first go. Don't forget, Josh Richardson wasn't much of a deal to begin with when the Celtics traded for him. And now he's came in, he's really rebuilt that trade value. That extra year on the contract's very attractive to other teams, because especially contending teams. So there are ways and reasons why I'm completely fine with having to move on from Richardson. But for me, it takes more than just one move. I think there's just too many. And it genuinely, and I've got an article coming out about this tomorrow. So on Wednesday, the 29th, if anybody wants to read it, head over to CelticsBlog.com. Follow me on Twitter and you'll see when it drops. Adam Taylor NBA. So the point of the article is you need to make a decision, bro. Udoka and Stevens need to sit down. Udoka needs to say what he thinks is the right path forward. Stevens needs to take that on board and then make a decision. You have too many young guys that need minutes. That the only way you're going to get the best version of them is to give them minutes. And the CLNS crew, your guys like John Zanis and everybody did a piece on this yesterday. There was a video on Celtics All Access. Shout out to the CLNS crew. where they were saying like, "Yo, the Celtics just don't seem committed to player development," and I really I approve of that message because I genuinely feel the same way. If you have Neesmith, Pritchard, Romeo, even to a smaller extent Grant Williams, who if we're being honest, his developments have all been very self improvements. It's not the team have improved him. He went away in the summer, worked out with his own trainers, came back lighter. He's cutting more and he's worked on his shot. That's nothing that the coaching staff have done. So there's no commitment there from the team on developing these young guys. So if you're not going to develop them, if you're not going to give this is people's careers we're talking about right now. If you're not going to give them the chance to be the best version of them, trade them. Get back players that you're going to give minutes to. Because at the moment, and I will get into this, I have a huge issue with the way Udoka runs his lineups, the way he runs his rotations. If anyone watching does follow me on Twitter, you would have seen that earlier today. I put out a tweet saying Pritchard shot 14 threes against the Timberwolves. He front rimmed 7 of them. 50% of his threes hit the front rim. When you shoot from free or when you shoot anywhere, if your shots are consistently front rimming out, that's a lack of power coming from your legs on that shot, which is why they fall short. You're not getting the arc or you're not getting the distancing right. And for Pritchard, that makes sense. This guy's gone from 9.3 minutes a game on average over his first 23 games of the season. His last 5 games of the season, he's averaging 30 minutes a game. There's no ramp up in between. No one slowly built him up. Just boom, now you're going to play triple the amount of minutes you've been averaging for the rest of the year. And all of a sudden, his legs just aren't the same because he's played more. He hasn't had his recovery time. He's not used to this level of this level of usage and so forth. And then all of a sudden he lays a goose egg in a game where he really could have dominated from deep. And there's just so I want Udoka and Stevens to come up with a plan. You either want to develop these young guys or you want veterans that don't need that development time that you can rely on more. You can't keep straddling this line. This is what got us there in the first place, bro. Ainge was straddling a line between contending and rebuilding. Every year a star moved because they didn't want to keep straddling that line. And then the secondary core, like the bench lineups, they got worse and worse because as the star leaves, other players around the league are like, yeah, I don't want to go there because so and so's left this year, someone left last year. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to stay away from it. And before you know it, you where they are now, where they're straddling the line of a playing tournament hopeful and a rebuilding team. What the hell are we doing here, man?
And there's enough talent that this shouldn't be an issue. And I think when you're talking about straddling that line between trying to develop young talent and compete, that was something that was a big topic when Ainge was in office. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to be able to make that decision. And right now, the way that I look at it is obviously you have veterans who are there who are able to help you compete. And then you've got the Jays who have turned into these 2 solid pieces, these 2 young stars that are clearly ready to compete. They've made Eastern Conference Finals multiple times in their young careers, and they're continuing to grow. And that growth is going to be natural as they try to develop into these 1 and 2 options on a championship team. And then the rest, you have no idea what the hell you're looking at. It's an issue. You cannot be leaning on young guys that you're not giving minutes to develop to. It's all of a sudden, oh, we've got injuries or oh, we've got COVID. So we're going to go ahead and turn to Aaron Neesmith and throw him in there for 25 minutes a game, even though he's been getting maybe 15 minutes combined over the past 5 games. You can't just chuck guys into garbage time and expect them to develop. And I will say, I agree with the Grant Williams development. He put in a lot of work. And you know what? He got a lot of flack during his sophomore season, but he was really, really helpful and really good his rookie year. He was part of the reason why you were able to beat the Raptors. So, that's a piece that you should hold on to. Danny Ainge hit on that pick. Robert Williams looking a little bit more durable, but it's too much trick or treat with him. He needs to be more consistent. Outside of that, you see sparkles out of Neesmith and Langford from time to time, and I think that Langford has more potential right now than Aaron Neesmith. But again, you're not getting it consistently. He's not able to stay healthy, and the way that Ime Udoka is running these teams in these lineups, he's not giving the young guys minutes. So you're in this weird, awkward in between where you're not good enough to contend and you're not giving your young guys any time to develop. So you've got depreciating assets in these players in these rookie contracts who you're doing a disservice to. And then you're not helping out your Jays, your 2 big guys that are your franchise faces. And you're not doing enough to help them. And it's like, you guys have to make a decision, because if you don't, you're going to lose one of these Jays. Like, one of Jaylen or Jason is going to walk out the door in the next couple of years if they don't make changes right now.
I mean, that's one of the biggest worries, right? Like if you look at it, that we've got the rest of this season, then all of next season, and then all of a sudden, the end of 2023, Jaylen Brown enters his final year of his deal, right? I don't know whether or not I'm confident that he stays beyond this deal. He doesn't seem happy when he's talking to the media. He's gone through some of the hardest seasons over the last 2 years, and if things don't change, you can project that next year might be exactly the same too. Why would Brown want to stick around? And then we talk about Udoka not trusting these guys. Romeo Langford, I get it. He was awful against Minnesota. I'm not going to defend a bad performance, but what I will say is that Udoka's systems are so rigid, and these young guys, are so scared of taking an ill-advised shot or driving when they should have passed, that Romeo's best opportunity he's shown defensive growth fine. His best opportunity to continue improving as an offensive piece is to start being more aggressive with the ball, driving more with the ball, attacking off screens as a curl guy that's going to get the ball on like ripped plays and stuff. But he's not getting the opportunity to do so. He's being asked to stand in the corner and offer some spacing and then drive out the corners, which is fine. But Udoka's not putting him in a position to succeed. And I feel like this is the same with Nesmith, and I feel like to a lesser extent it's the same with you could look at it as Robert Williams. It's the same with Robert Williams a little bit. I know Robert Williams has been good recently, barring the game against Minnesota, but Udoka's not putting these guys in positions to play to their full strength. We barely see Rob as a lob threat. You might get 1 or 2 a game. Realistically, he should be averaging 20 a game off 10 lobs, because that's his skill set. Or if you want to give him 10 to 12 a game off lobs, and then you're going to feed him in the post and help develop that low block work or his facilitation out of the low block, great. But we don't see that either. As Nesmith, you're asking a guy that's a movement shooter to play as a spot up, and then you're not happy when he's not scoring. Guess what? He's not getting shots in rhythm. You're not putting him in positions where he's comfortable. Udoka as a coach is developing too, and that's what really gets my goat, man. That's what grinds my gears more than anything. The coach is getting every opportunity to improve and every opportunity to continue developing, but he's not giving them to his young pieces, which in turn is removing trade assets from the Celtics storage. Because guess what? No one wants to trade for a guy that's ass. You know what I mean? Oh, Nesmith's been awful the last 10 games that we've seen him play. Nesmith's been awful for the entire season. Guess what? Now no one wants Nesmith. Or if they do, it's for pennies on the dollar, because you've put him in positions to be ass, and now teams think he's ass. Then he's going to go somewhere else and be good. And I have a lot of issues, man. I feel like until the Celtics really double down on a lane that they want to attack, or choose one of those 4 options that we said, or 5 if you want to include yours, we'll include yours, 5. Until they make that decision, this is going to be a sub 500 team, or about a 0.500 team, and they're slowly going to lose their best players, because they're going to get sick of the constant losing, the constant bickering in the locker room, the constant fan just outrage that they must see online. And most importantly, the media questions that are constantly, why are you guys so bad? What is it that makes you guys keep dropping games? You know what it is? They suck. Not as individuals, but as a team. That team right now sucks. And that's just what it is.
The chemistry was a big thing that Jaylen Brown talked about last night, and Al Horford talked about looking in the mirror, and they asked Jaylen Brown about it, and he said, searching and looking in the mirror, no comment. And he took a lot of ownership during that interview, so I'm just confused as to why he didn't deal with that comment, didn't roll with it in the right way. Like, I don't know if that's indicative of a further problem, or if there's an attitude issue that you now have to worry about with one of your top stars. And that's discouraging. Like,
I think the entire roster has just become apathetic.
And that's an issue.
Yeah,
I think
there's a culture of apathy developing. I don't think it's there. I'm not one to buy into, there's a winning culture, and now it's not a winning culture in 18 months. Now, forget that. Like, these things take a long time, but I genuinely believe that there is an apathetic culture slowly developing on the fringes of this roster. And I think that that's one of the worst things that you can have, because then they'll become so apathetic that being a middle of the road team is an achievement. And I'm sorry, but when you're playing for the Boston Celtics, being middle of the road is anything but an achievement.
And it's tough. Like, I guess the biggest thing for me is if you're trying to improve right now and you're not going to give up one of the Jays, you need to find a third team that's looking to move on from a star. You know, you're looking at Portland or you're looking at Indiana, and you have to find out what that next piece is. Like, can you try and get Ben Simmons from Philly? Like, that's a playmaker that would help you. I know that we're both pretty high on Ben Simmons, but realistically, is there a way that you can get one of these guys to enter your building and be part of this team without giving up Jaylen Brown? And that
And
I'm really not sure of.
I think the hardest part is having a fair, like an actual reasonable assessment of what the value of the Celtics players is
Yeah.
around the league. And obviously, none of us are privy to that. So everything's guesswork. It's all conjecture. But I've always been a big believer on air on the side where your estimate of a player's value is lower than what it should be around the league rather than overestimating. And that way you can never be disappointed, right? So I'm like, right, if you want to go and get a third star, but you're taking Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum off the table, well, operating under the assumption that this third star puts the Celtics back into contention, all of your future draft picks are going to be late first rounders or, you know, late seconds, depending on what pick you're giving up. That means your draft picks are now ass. So you can throw in 5 or 6 picks, but what difference does that make? It's 5 or 6 shots at the lottery. How often, you know what I mean? It's rare that a 28th pick really blows up in his first year. And if he does, it's still going to be 3 or 4 years until he's truly impactful.
Yeah.
So your draft picks become less of a like a bargaining chip. Then you're like, right, we need to package together multiple guys. So would Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and Romeo Langford plus 3 or 4 picks be enough to get you a true star? No, I don't think it would. I genuinely
not
don't.
enough of a not enough of a difference maker. No, like
No.
I don't even know if that would get you a guy like Sabonis. Like maybe that gets you Sabonis
Well, it
level
gets you
talent.
close, but like the one thing that if it was me, the one thing I'd be doing now as Brad Stevens is like, right, what type of draft picks are out there right now? If I give up Josh Richardson and Dennis Schroeder in a deal, what type of deal can I get back? That if I move on from Marcus Smart, I can get back a veteran piece that I could package somewhere else later down the line, but I'm also going to get back a valuable draft pick. Like I'd be looking at ways to start stocking that cupboard again, because if this is the case and what they need is a third star, well, nothing else is going to go right until that third star walks through the door. You can build the rest of the roster as and when you need to at that point. Just look at how the Lakers and the Nets and everyone have done it once the third star's arrived. They're dealt with everything else afterwards. So if that third star is your true calling and that's exactly what you need to start making moves to fill that cupboard now. And we've seen time and time again, Anthony Davis, James Harden, we'll see over and over. Draft picks are what teams look for when they're moving on from a superstar. And they don't just want end of first round draft picks. Obviously, the Lakers did it in a way where it was like, hey, you can basically have our next, 8 years future or something on and off. And we don't project to be very good at that point. Or, you know, and to be honest, they don't project to be very good right now. But you need to start finding ways to put them draft picks back in the cupboard. And until you do that, finding that third star based off the players you've got that you're not giving minutes to, I don't understand how that's meant to happen. It's just illogical to me.
Yeah, and it involves dragging in a third team and throwing everything you have for picks or buying on a guy whose stock is down. Like that's why Ben Simmons makes so much sense because I don't even really know what his asking price is going to be because
Well, it's
he's
a
not
top
suiting up.
25 star according to Maury.
Yeah, but again, Daryl Morey playing hardball, he's still not gotten what he wants. So I don't know. Like it's I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I have the answers. Like we've gone back and forth talking about all these potential options and paths that the Celtics can take. But I guess what it really waters down to us as we wrap this up is they need to make a decision. They need to make a definitive decision and start making those moves now, preparing for that future whatever you imagine it to be, whether it's you're running the Jays out with a third star, whether that guy's Ben Simmons, or whether you want to throw a bunch of assets at the Spurs and hope that they give you DeJounte Murray. Like you have to go out and find somebody who's going to help create a legitimate core. Because right now, you're at risk of losing one of the Jays at some point down the line, whether it be in the next 2 years or in the next 4.
And I'm very big on if you're going to lose them down the line, you might as well be willing to at least explore an option of losing one now.
Yep.
Just explore. Just go onto the trade market and be like, yo, just like you would on 2K, where it's proposed trade. Here's Jaylen Brown. Tell me what you're willing to give me, and we can get a kicking off point. Obviously it's not that simple, but it's tough, man. It really is tough, and I don't think there's no answers right now. I don't think Brad Stevens has the answer. I don't think Udoka has the answer. To be honest, I don't think Udoka knows what day of the week it is sometimes. I'm really unimpressed with what I've seen from him so far, especially because I really thought and I truly believe that the Celtics have got this X's and O's guy that could connect to guys on a personal level, but when the games needed it, like what you did in Minnesota, where you're down to the last 3 minutes, it's a close game, that Udoka would start calling out some plays that they've been practicing and would start seeing some sets be run, and that would get the Celtics far enough ahead that they could coast on some freelance basketball down the stretch. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing Udoka innovate. I was hoping he'd be an innovative coach, and to be quite honest, I just don't think he was ready for this opportunity. And if he was, then he came into it thinking it was going to be easier than what it is. So there's a lot to fix, man. I think this is a tangled web, and unfortunately, I genuinely believe that by the time you figure it all out, it might be too late. But we've been negative enough, man. It's 25 minutes long. I feel like we've upset everybody. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to hit on before we let everyone go?
Tomorrow will be a brighter day. Go listen to some nice positive music. Try and get some good vibes going. Maybe burn some sage or something. I don't know. Do
Yeah.
anything that will help you, because like right now the Celtics are miserable to watch and they don't seem like they're having a lot of fun either. So find solace where you can.
Until then, hit that subscribe button. We are usually a lot more positive than this. As I said, we're going to hit this channel hard in 2022. There should be daily videos being posted for one reason or another. But until the next time, make sure to share the vitamin C's with everybody on your social media. Make sure to hit those like buttons. Make sure to follow Tim. If you can't see Tim's Instagram, then I will show you his Instagram. Bear with me because I don't know how to do it again. I do. There's Tim's Instagram.
Shut
Hello. Peace out, everybody. Stay safe.